The Nikon Z6III is finally upon us, so there is no more rumors, no more guessing specs. It is here, it is very real, and it looks fantastic. And in this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you should consider buying the Nikon Z6III. Just a little disclaimer to begin with, Nikon aren't paying me to do this video, and I'm not sponsored by Nikon in any way. They don't give me any gear to review. In fact, all these Nikon cameras you see right behind me here were bought by yours truly, and I've been a Nikon user for over 10 years. Anyway, that being said, the Nikon Z6III really does look fantastic, and with its new jam-packed features, I'm sure a lot of photographers will be putting in their orders early. Let's just skim over the main specs of the Z6III to begin with. It has a 24.5 megapixel partially stacked CMOS sensor. It also does up to 6K at 60 frames per second in video. It also does 4K at 120 frames, but that is cropped, as well as 1080 HD at 240 frames per second. It does 14 frames per second mechanical and 20 frames per second in electronic shutter mode. Has a 9 subject detection focus system, just like the Z9, and it also has 8 stops of VR and also has the focus point VR that was also seen in the Nikon ZF. 5760K res viewfinder. That's going to be amazing out in bright sunlight. Pre-capture release, this is also seen in the Z8 and Z9 when you're doing sports and birds and wildlife. Max shutter speed is 1/16,000th of a second. And it also has a new line audio input for those that are shooting live gigs, things like concerts, or you're shooting weddings. Now you can have a live audio input coming from a mixer desk straight into the Z6III. X-Speed 7 processor, that's the same as the Z8 and the Z9, and the ISO range is from 100 to 64,000. Just like the Nikon ZF, it goes down to -10 EV in low light. This is going to be an amazing camera in those nighttime shoots. You're going to be able to get focus much easier. And it has a fully articulated 3.2-inch LCD screen. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there saying, hallelujah, we've finally got a flippy screen, because we haven't seen it on this style of camera before. And I'm talking about your Z6s and your Z7s. I know the Nikon ZF already has a flip screen, as well as in the crop sensor range, the ZFC and the Z30 also has a flip screen. I have no doubt this Nikon Z6III is going to be pretty popular with photographers and videographers, and I'm sure there's going to be a waiting list. And as we've seen nowadays with some of the Nikon gear, it does take a little bit of time to deliver, depends on when you get your orders in. Anyway, here are my top 5 reasons why you should consider buying the Nikon Z6III. Just like its big brothers, the Z8 and Z9, the Z6III comes with pre-capture release. This mode allows you to capture images that you would normally miss out on photographing things like sports, fast action, and birds and wildlife. When you hit the shutter, you get a buffer of up to 1 second. Now this is fantastic for sports and birds and wildlife. It might be, a bird just about to leave the branch, taking flight, or somebody could be catching a ball in sports. This allows you to capture those moments you would normally miss out on. It really is a useful feature on the Z6III when you combine that with the Z6III's frames per second capability. Then it increases your chances of capturing that magic moment you're after. The Nikon Z6III comes with a 5760K dot viewfinder. That's going to be amazing in bright daylight hours. I don't know about you, but it can get very frustrating when you're trying to see things out in bright daylight doing photography, whether it's on the back LCD screen or through the viewfinder. The enhanced visual specs of the Z6III's viewfinder should make photography much easier and more pleasurable when shooting photos and video in bright daylight, particularly at locations like the beach. Just like the 24 megapixel Nikon ZF, the Z6 III also inherits the same amazing low light capabilities. So just like that Nikon ZF, you go down to as low as -10 EV. This really does help you get accurate focusing in low light situations. And when you combine that with the 24 megapixel partial stacked sensor, this Z6 III should be awesome for night shooting in cities, or you're doing astro or low light landscapes. At the time of making this video, the Nikon Z6 III retails for $2,500 US. Here in Australia, it retails for $4,500. So for those that have been sitting on the fence wanting to buy something like the Nikon Z8, but it was just that little bit too far out of reach budget-wise, or maybe you like the specs of the Nikon ZF, but you weren't too fussed on the design or the grip, then the Nikon Z6 III is a nice compromise in the middle. You'll get the best of both worlds with this amazing little camera. With the ability to go up to 6K at 60 frames per second, the Nikon Z6 III promises to be not only a photographer's, but a videographer's dream come true camera. Having that higher res video capability on the Z6 III, combined with its focusing specs, I'm sure this is going to be a wedding and corporate video shooters, along with content creators, absolute dream camera. It can also do 4K at up to 120 frames per second. That is, however, with a crop, and also does 1080 HD at 240 frames per second. Now I could go on and on with the many reasons to buy the Z6 III, and I'm sure this is the type of camera a lot of you have been waiting for from Nikon. I should mention too, you can also use the MB-N14 power battery pack with this Z6 III. It's going to be great if you need longer battery life as well as a better grip on the camera. In terms of who the Z6 III is actually for, well, it really is a dedicated hybrid camera. And I'm talking about those guys that are really into photography and videography. So your wedding shooters, your corporate shooters where you're doing both video and photos, as well as guys that are doing astro, landscape, birds and wildlife and sports. I'm sure this Z6 III will be perfect for that. Here in Australia, the Z6 III also comes with some kit lens packages. It comes with the 24-70 f4s, the 24-120 f4s, as well as the 24-200mm. So it actually is worthwhile looking at these because 9 times out of 10, it actually works out cheaper instead of having to buy the lens separately. Just as soon as I can get my hands on a full production copy of this Nikon Z6 III, I will be reviewing it on my channel, so make sure you subscribe and keep your eyes open for that video. Well, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. What about you that's watching this video? Have you put in your orders yet for the Nikon Z6 III? Let me know in the comments below. It is a fantastic little camera and it is so good to see these features from the more expensive models like the Z8 and Z9, and they're now filtering down into these more price-friendly models. I'll see you next time.